All right, we're in the virtual onboarding for our community. We just checked in, and we move on to the checked in breakout rooms, which is why we didn't record so far. And then we'll move into the next point on the agenda, which is basically community overview and questions, reactions, kind of generative dialogue. So um, I'll speak for, I'll try to do it for maybe 6 minutes. Let's see if I'm able to. I have basically 3 sections, like the origin story is number 1, the kind of like the brief history of the past, few months, and then where we're now and kind of what's happening next. So the origin story, Claudia and I know each other since 2016 when we both joined the World Bank, actually within months apart from each other, and then actually Ray as well, who's not here today, but I think actually he was there first. I think I met him first, and then Claudia a few months later. Eventually, the 3 of us plus a couple other people became the Central Communities of Practice team, supporting communities of practice across the bank and with external partners, and eventually releasing or creating and releasing the Communities of Practice Toolkit, which we've with a bunch of resources which we've shared in the past. The team itself was disbanded in 2021, in the spring of exactly 3 years ago, actually. But the 3 of us, we stayed in touch. Claudia and I have worked on different projects together, and we collaborate in different settings. And then even back then in 2021, as we were getting disbanded as a team, we had a nascent idea of creating a community of community builders because we saw there was a need, especially around the toolkit. But at that time, neither had the time or desire, or I think we were a little burned out also from everything that had happened in the pandemic and whatnot. And so fast forward, a couple of years, and Claudia and I, we talk regularly, anyways. And so the idea of like this space was basically born, or reborn. We didn't know whether it would work or whether there'll be enough interest. Like we didn't make an elaborate plan. It was more like, hey, let's try this in the simplest possible way. Let's commit to this for a few months, for 6 months. If there's traction, great, we continue. If there's not, we just drop it, continue with other stuff. We shared the idea with some of our regional colleagues and other folks, and then and Ray joined. We had several clear intentions from the very beginning, without having an idea about like a big vision or anything. We had several intentions. One was for the space to be as organic as possible and fully co-created by whoever shows up. The exact opposite of kind of big bureaucratic organizations and the kinds of communities we were kind of part of creating or guiding. 2, we wanted the space to be as diverse as possible. So people from different continents, from different professional backgrounds, different kinds of communities, different settings, i.e. to be around people that we weren't actually around before in our work. They're very different from the people we typically talk to. And then 3rd, we wanted the space to be co-owned by everyone, that's kind of organic, volunteer run, and the decision making is really distributed and not 2 or 3 people kind of holding the rein and calling the shots and all that. Now, to emphasize, this space is not at all connected in any way to the World Bank or the UN or any other organization out there. This is us as ourselves, even though we have affiliations obviously with different spaces. So it's 3 of us coming together and bringing all of you and others along who believe in the power of community. That's the origin. In terms of the brief history, after Claudia and I kind of started talking like, oh, let's do it. It was basically, like I said, like, what's the easiest way to get this started? And we said, okay, here, let's create an interest form. We did that in September last year. We put it on social media, LinkedIn, through a bunch of contacts to see what would happen. I think we even played a game of trying to guess how many people would sign up, and we all lost because it ended up being about 190 from about 50 plus countries on all 6 continents over a few months. We had I personally, I think we all were really surprised by just the number and the diversity. We hosted a couple of events, to basically get to know each other, but more importantly, to figure out, to co-create together. Okay, like, you know, we come with an intention, we don't come with a full vision, like I said, to actually see, you know, what people want, what will be useful. So we got a bunch of insights, we synthesized them. We sent out a survey to kind of validate these insights, you know, because of the 180 plus people, maybe only half had actually participated in one of the 2 meetings. We didn't want to exclude the other half who were part of it, wanted to be part of it, but didn't have a chance to actually attend. People filled out a survey, and then from the survey, several community members actually here present, you know, Paloma and Steve, actually stepped up and you know, volunteered to help draft the charter. Basically, take all these insights and put them in a concise form in a couple of pages document, which then was shared again to gather more feedback. And interestingly enough, I think we probably got maybe 20 people commenting on that Google Doc that was the original charter, which was really, really neat, and all sorts of really good comments, which we then cleaned up. And is what we shared with you. So this is in the folder that we have shared in the past. And we can maybe, Claudia, if you want to put the link to the folder now might be a good time. You actually see, you can see the two versions, like the charter with all the feedback from people, so that you can actually get a sense of what people said, and then the kind of cleaned up version with comments resolved. Of course, the charter is still a living document, like you change over time, but I think it fairly accurately reflects and captures, you know, who we are right now. So where are we now? What's next? Yeah, the charter. Like this was, you know, this was huge. You know, I think we have more of an identity. What we still don't have is the name, you know, and that's, you know, that's pending, because there was a lot of conversation synchronously and asynchronously about that. And on the one hand, it's like, well, it would be kind of nice to have a name and just run with it. On the other hand, we just didn't want to rush it. It just didn't feel right to just pick something or like get from all the votes and be like, okay, this is it. So name is pending. Charter is good. Name is pending. Two, we have member-led events. It's part of the idea, part of the intention of having people own it and like do things that they want to do. You know, we have one last month in February. We have 2 more coming up, which I think we'll put the info. One in April, beginning of April, one in late April. I think we'll speak more about those at the very end. So these are events coming up, and of course there'll be more. We'll figure out how. And then the third key piece is forming a stewardship circle, an actual stewardship circle to take us forward as a space. De facto, like the 3 of us with Claudia and Ray, we've acted in a way as stewards, as a mini team, you know, putting in some of the groundwork and getting the infrastructure set up and convening the meetings and whatnot. But it's really important to us that it doesn't just become, because of course we can do it. It's not a matter of ability, but it's a matter of principle. It's a matter of intention to not just be, you know, all 3 people who know each other who are like doing this, but that as soon as possible, we open it up. You know, we invite other people, you know, to do it, and we really create opportunities for everybody to be engaged however they can and however they want to. So for a stewardship circle, you know, the idea is that really anyone is welcome. It has nothing to do with professional background, how experienced you are, like anything like that. Anything is welcome, but really is a focus on diversity and representation. You know, we don't want, you know, 3 people formally from the World Bank to be like stewarding something that is well beyond kind of organizations and other things. So diversity is really important, especially geographic diversity. And then the third piece of the stewardship circle is a different way to make decisions and organize ourselves. Not, you know, a few people like, okay, we're the bosses here, we're the community leads, and we kind of decide what happens. But we do it by consent, and we really keep the space egalitarian and invite participation, however you know, however is needed. So that's about it in terms of overview. Okay, I think I did 8 minutes maybe. Not too bad, I think, in the end. And so now we'll just open it for for comments, questions, reactions, really to the past, 8-9 minutes of what I said. And before we actually do that, just a quick reminder on the asks and gives in the Google Doc. I think we now have 3, but if you have something, because we'll get to that in about 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes. So if you have an ask, if you have something that you'd like to get feedback on, it's really think of, the group here is like a mini brain trust, and so you get 5 minutes for all of us to kind of focus on the thing that then you may need help with. So feel free to do that in the next 5 minutes or so. And now let's hear from you. Reactions, questions, comments, anything that comes up. We're a small group, so just unmute, speak.
I have a question regarding your past experience. And why, how was your overall feedback on that? And then why did it end?
You mean the past experience with the World Bank team? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Claudia, do you want to take this or do you want me to?
That kind of connects to, in one of the breakout groups I was hearing from Steve, and I think, it's the way that in big organizations, people do realize the value of community. If you talk with people, everybody will say, okay, yes, that's important, but not as much as to actually make it strategic and a part of the institution's main goals. Because if it's strategic, it needs resources, right? You need to separate budget for that. You need to have a group of people dedicated to do that. So for some time in the bank, community of practice was strategic in this way. So we did have this budget, these people, but at one point it became very difficult. And then, we didn't find a sponsor anymore. And it was funny because, we were a team, but it was almost like we were very entrepreneurial. It was almost as if we owned the team in a way. So we tried to fight for it, looking for different sponsors, pitching the idea. And we were able to do this, I guess, 2 or 3 times, right, cycle on this, restructures and reorganizations. But then, finally in 2021, we couldn't find any sponsor. And so the team as it was, it vanished. But the demand was there, so much that, all of us, the consultants, continued working with communities of practice, not in this, central team, but with teams that had communities in different departments. Now it sounds that it's becoming strategic anymore. So, it's kind of like this ocean and you have to ride the waves.
Yeah, and maybe to add, because I think we can speak on this for hours, but to add one piece and be maybe even more direct than Claudia. One, it's political. Everything in our organization, like the World Bank, is political. And directors come and go, VPs come and go, president, new agenda, new everything. And then specifically in our case, I call this collateral damage, because we were with one team essentially in HR, learning team with HR, and we were totally fine there. But then the bank is like, oh, knowledge management is important. They brought a director, new director of KM. She was building a team, and it made sense that we would, since we were doing kind of our work could be considered under the KM umbrella. So we were actually moved to that new team, to the KM team with a new director, etc. Well, then she ran into trouble, and I don't know, did she screw up? Did they not like her? Did she not like whatever happened? But basically, it was the KM team that was disbanded, and because we happened to be there, we were disbanded as well. Had we not moved there, it probably would have been different actually. But that's just just how, Steve.
Yeah, it's a very familiar experience. My work with the World Bank started with Steve Denning, who created this whole idea, and then went to Criminal Accords. I worked with him, and I did a little chapter about knowledge management in the UN for the Rutledge Handbook, and I coined the term structural amnesia, which means new people come in They want to make their mark. They want to do something new. They don't want to take whatever anybody else does. So they throw out whatever it was and they start again. And then they last a few, 3 or 4 years, and somebody else comes in and they want to do something new and they don't want to learn from the past. So it's lessons not learned. And I'm a victim of the same thing. That's why I'm going, taking what we developed in the UN, taking it out on my own. So I don't have this issue, because then it gets defunded. The Global Delivery Initiative, GDI, same thing. It vanished. It was a fantastic idea of the World Bank, and we used it in UADP. And next thing I know, I look for the site and it's gone.
Well, by the way, Global Delivery Initiative was also added to the KM team that I was mentioning. So like they were also collateral damage. Just as an example.
It's a tragedy of the UN. They become, I was my own opinion, but they're kind of more risk averse than they were than the olden days where we tried these things. They're successful, but managers don't use knowledge. Managers use information. If they want knowledge, they'll ask the staff to get it for them, right? They need numbers, and so that's where the problem is, because they vote the budgets, and if they're not aware, if they're just all they want is that the knowledge, that the information that comes from their staff to be reliable, and that's how you get, they're interested. The staff are interested in knowledge management. That's where you get this groundswell. We need this because our bosses are asking for stuff and we want reliable information, so help. But managers use numbers. They need numbers. They take decisions on that, so they're not as aware of the interest and the demand on this. I think that's kind of, there's a lot of similar organizations. I've been ILO. I just been working with them for the last 2 years now, and it's the same thing happened there. Happens a lot. That's just
all right, Steve. Sorry to interrupt, but just to make sure we have more time for more questions and not to get down the rabbit hole of the pits and the dysfunction of big organizations. Yeah. Any other comments, questions? Marcia, thank you for getting us started. No, nothing. Even maybe a reaction. If not.
I mean, I'd be interested in talking again about my own experience, if that's of interest.
Well, let's move. If we don't have any questions, so in the interest of time, let's move to the asks and gives. Because that's really and actually good. I see more since I last looked at the document. So okay, let's do quick math. We have about 22 minutes. Yep, this is about 5 minutes. So here's how that's going to work. Well, actually, Claudia, technically that's you. So sorry. Go for it.
Thank you, Taco. I would just like to thank, just referring to the overview section, just thank you very much for being in this session today. What we have noticed is that the sessions that have more like a workshop feel or like a presentation feel gets more audience. And these sections that are more like a list of laundry things and let's do things together and let's think through gets a little bit less interest. But the good thing is that we get people that are really interested. Paloma and Steve, they have been, strong collaborators. So it's great that you are here. And we need more of that when the stewardship circle comes to life. So stay tuned, because if this is your vibe, there will be opportunity for you and you're needed. So moving to the asks and gives, this activity is an opportunity for us to kind of feel the magic and the power of community, and especially the peer support piece, right? We share a challenge that we have, and let's see, what others have experienced and what kind of ideas they bring to help us with a practical idea that we can implement in our work. So with that, we have already 6 questions, and as Arco said, we're going to spend, I guess, about 5 minutes per question. I'll read the question, and if you have an idea of how to support, you just unmute yourself and contribute. So we start with Winifred. She's saying that a challenge that she has is around networking skills, how to make meaningful connections, how to cause bonding in a very diverse team. So whoever wants to talk about these meaningful connections, it's so important.
Yeah, and the idea is to throw out ideas, and whoever has the question, in this case Winifred, she can stay silent, take her notes, go from there. And then we have the beauty of the Google Doc too. So if anything comes up later, or there's a link to something, just put it right under the question, and then Winifred and others after after her can go through notes and resources there. First thing that comes to my mind is randomized virtual coffee. So that's just one thing you can do in terms of randomly kind of connecting people and just, hey, informal chat, 30 minutes, whatever. You can do it in a team, you can do it in a community setting. I'll put a link to the format in the Google Doc.
On the bonding in a diverse team, I think the most effective one that I have ever seen is doing something that's totally not related to work, or where there might be hierarchy involved. And this particular exercise is who can build the highest tower. So this works really only if you're in person, but if you have a diverse team, you give people a bunch of supplies, pasta, tape, recycled cartons, and you give them a certain amount of time to build the highest tower, in different groups. And I was amazed at how quickly people began talking. They came out of their shells. People who might not talk as much in the more formal setting of a community or anything else, were really leaders. And from then on, everybody was really able to collaborate a little bit more effectively. So I can put a link in the chat as well, but I think there's a lot of different exercises that you can do with a group to help transition them into a bit of a closer bond going into any type of community.
Aloma, that is that in presence, right? It's like you can't do this virtually, or can you? I suppose you could.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's challenging to do virtually. So I think that one would be only relevant for communities of practice or groups that are able to come together in person. But I think the underlying principle could maybe be translated into something virtual. I'll kind of try to think about it and share if I can think of a one that could work.
That goes with the idea of human-centered design. I participated in a workshop where it was a workshop about introduction to human-centered design, and this was the same idea. This is brilliant. Yeah, excellent. We're finding tools online to collaborate. There are quite a few already.
What I use is basically anything that builds trust between professionals. They get to know each other, familiarity and trust, so building a personal connection. And there's all kinds of ways to do that. Online, again, for me, it's knowledge sharing. You get to find out who can help you and who you can help. And when you build that personal connection, it makes a big difference in terms of activity, because then if somebody asks a question and you have this personal connection, you want to help them out. So I think a lot of that, it's ice breaking, but in a virtual online version, I don't have the advantage in the communities. I build a face-to-face normally, so it's all managing that on a way and designing something that is designed to build trust.
Thank you all. Let's move to the second in the interest of time. So Ahmed is asking challenges around peer support. So he's talking peer support on reinvigorated participation in a 1-year-old community of practice on information and knowledge management, looking for innovative strategies to foster a culture of organic exchange, sharing best practices across multi-country operations. How can we effectively engage members to reignite their enthusiasm and commitment to the community?
And I can quickly say, I mean, this is, Claudia and I kind of wake up and say this, I think, on a daily basis, but it's really about identifying member needs. And like, you have members, what do they want? Why are they there? And they want something, right? They have challenges. If you're able to figure out what those are, and address them, then they'll come and they'll be reinvigorated. They'll participate. So I put a link in the Google Doc to some ideas, but like, we are going back to human-centered design, as per the previous points. We're big on just talking to members, 30 minutes, kind of scheduled interviews, if you want. Like, you can call them whatever you want. With diverse members, talk to them. It does relationship building, and then you get a ton of useful insights. And then from that, you organize activities based on like what people said, and then you do 1 or 2 or 3. You test, you see what works, what doesn't, and chances are, if you're getting good info, good insights, and if you do a proper job with the events, people are like, oh, I like this space. Like, this space is useful to me. I'll show up more. I'll do more. I'll give more, etc.
Thank you very much for the tips.
Yeah, and Paul wrote something in the chat, which I'll copy. I'll copy in the Google Doc directly. Oops. Hi.
Okay, yeah, and we can keep adding to the Google document. And let's go to challenge number 3. Looking for an effective way to engage the community in best practice and lesson learned. Looking for an effective way to engage the community in best practice and lesson learned. Would it be very focused on, doing like the after action review, something like this? That's what I'm kind of feeling. Is that it, Paul? It's making sure that you are learning from what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and continue doing what's best. Is that what you mean? Yes, please. Okay. Yeah. So any ideas on how to do this? I can get us started with just the after action review, which is also kind of activity. I will look for a link with something important. But the idea is, after you do these activities, you connect with your team, with everybody involved, and just try to think what worked well and what could be improved. Right? There are different ways to do this, but you learn a lot from that. If you open a little space, even during the activities, for example, you're doing the session today. When we are checking out, we're asking you what worked well, what could be improved, and then when you get, those little things that didn't cross your mind, but it's making a difference. In the user experience. So this is one.
My
And then do
experience,
it frequently. Retrospectives, maybe quarterly or whatever. Do them frequently. Yeah. Yes, Steve, go ahead.
again, doing virtual, what the biggest motivator of getting people to talk about best practices and lessons learned is to have some organizational head ask the question because they're interested in improving how they work. Department director or somebody like that, one of these managers, and people come out with their ideas. You're inviting them in, and you're the top manager, and you're open to hearing from ideas and so on. And they come in. The people come back, and those are usually the most dynamic questions that people ask and active sessions when the boss is actually developing a policy or something like that, and he wants input from the organization. They come in. It usually works.
And I'll just add real quick, just the idea of right iteration, right? You do something, you see if it works, you take stock, you reflect, you change. I think in our space, I've seen so many examples of people spend 6 months planning okay, we're going to plan this community, we're going to do, you know, all the stuff, and then 6 months are gone, they're tired, and they're like, wait, so how do we do this again? And then they get stuck at the moment they're supposed to start and like do something and get people together. They get stuck. And why is that? Because planning is easy. Yeah, everybody knows how to plan. Everybody knows how to write a concept note and to write like whatever. And then when you actually get to, okay, now we need to move forward, you know, there's get stuckness, especially in bigger, more bureaucratic organizations. So getting over that in action, I think is so huge. Because honestly, just doing anything that brings people together, however silly, stupid, not thought out, you know, might be, would actually going to move you forward and give you more ideas for what to do next.
Thank you all. So next one was Steve would like feedback on the new startup, the Peer Connect. Steve, what I'm thinking is, I know that in the registration form, you said that you have interested to have a session so that you can introduce this to us. So I think, I mean, we would need a lot of background information, right, on what you're doing so far, so that we can give you feedback. So yeah, are you okay if we move this to this session? We would love to connect and, I mean, talk about that.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, it's a new thing, it's a startup, and I need somebody to say, this might work or this won't work, and why.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, maybe in the meantime, if you just put a link in the Google Doc, like next to like where that is, and I'll invite everybody here who's present. I mean, after this, because, you know, obviously right now we won't have time to actually look at the website and look at the various things. But to kind of take a look and just send you a note, or even just put something in the document directly in terms of initial quick reactions.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I'll copy it over to the Google Doc.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. So then we have Sylvia. She's looking for ideas, strategies, methods to disseminate publications and ensure learning and uptake of knowledge there. Which is, yes, something that we have to do often. It's a great.
Disseminating publications. How fun is that?
Could I ask if it's more internally or externally that the need is? Like, what is the biggest challenge? Is it internally to the organization, or is it externally, or both?
More internally, but both. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, maybe this is too basic, but I think internally, I always just think repackaging to suit the audience needs. So, you know, if it's a 20-page publication, you know, who are you trying to reach? How much bandwidth do they have? And repackaging it into checklist form. So if it's something you want them to take action on, for example, making publication research findings into checklists, I think can really help spur action based on my experience. I hope that makes sense.
I would agree with that. When I did something like this for UNDP, I said you should focus on different target audiences. The people that read the big shots read a half a page on the taxi going to the office, all the way down to the researcher at the end who needs to read the whole thing. Each one will have a different, you know, format and assumptions. And a lot of, I know I've seen McKinsey work like that too. They take the theme and they have a different, you know, audience for which one. Here's the one you should read. Here's the one you should read. So you send the message, you get the message out, disseminated, depending on your audience, different targets.
There was a good advice about that in a group that we have, one of those Yama groups that we have on the bank, Źarko, you know them, Olga, I guess, and Wendy. So what they were saying, and it makes a lot of sense, is that your final goal would not be to disseminate the publication, but it should be to disseminate the ideas, to, I mean, cause the behavior change that the publication is about. And that really struck me was like, yes, I mean, getting a lot of downloads and people to read the publication is like this hardcore number that you can show. But I mean, the actual success is to actually get your message across, right? And if you think of it that way, I mean, your mindset changes a little bit in terms of it becomes more like, okay, how do I get people to adopt it? And then it becomes like, it opens up to different ideas. Of course, there's not like one cookie cutter that will work for everything, but I mean, it could be events, it could be getting people together to discuss this, and hopefully in a way that it's not only, I mean, death by PowerPoint, but yeah, it's important to have the focus on content, but it's so important to also open for people to openly discuss and have their questions answered on that. I mean, depending on the budget, of course, many times involve this in a community or a way would be also great.
I saw participated in a meeting where there were videos. So some of the publications were there was not death by PowerPoint, but a short video, 30 seconds, doing a pitch about the publication. And then the video links were shared in a YouTube channel with the participants. So it avoided having the, the topics being gone through. Yeah, that's an idea. Videos, short videos to inspire the reading or interest.
Yeah, I think that's great. And even having like a landing page so that you can, I mean, organize all of this, just like, I mean, connecting the ideas from Paloma and from Marcia. You have this landing page in which you have the link to the publications. You extract the key lessons from the publication. It could be in bullet points, or it should be in bullet points, but also on videos, on different ways for people to connect. That is working on the access side, right? And then, of course, doing the outreach piece so that you move people to actually be on this site would be great. I mean, we have right now in my team, they are launching like a catalog, and you have lots of, I mean, good practices and examples, but they are all buried in this long list of things. So what I'm thinking, I was suggesting, and we want to do, is to make this like digital and transform, like, for example, they're talking about smart cities, but it's smart city related to transport, applied to transport, or applied to education, or applied to housing. So if we bring those examples, I mean, from being buried in the publication to like an online toolkit in which people can like click and go to the examples that they're looking for, we are hoping that this is something that will be useful.
I bet you could do this a lot with ChatGPT or something like that. You can take the big document, say, make it into a half-page brief, make it into the bullets. And you can do the whole thing in a few minutes instead of hiring somebody to rewrite it all.
Yeah, and it may not be ChatGPT, but because I was literally asking a friend about this a couple of months ago. He said there's, I don't know what, but there are other AI tools, some free, some not, that would take like 20-page, 50-page, whatever, and then essentially write the executive summary for you, or write the key points or whatever. Because ChatGPT itself may not be able to handle but I think if you just did a search for AI tools that do kind of summaries of stuff, you'll probably find stuff, and then you can play with it.
Yeah.
And the final question from Rugila was sharing experiences and best practices, learning, networking, peer exchange, supporting information and data sharing.
But he's not there anymore, is he?
Here right now, that's not left. Yeah, so maybe we could add a few things in the chat. I mean, we kind of answered this in the other questions, but I think that it feels like he's looking for different strategies in the community to promote this peer connect and lots of things, right? But yeah, we can add a few things in the Google documents. It's almost, yeah, it's almost time for, yeah, we actually should move to the checkout, but I just wanted to hear from you, did you think it was useful? I mean, this piece about the sharing one, or one more we can. Okay. Yeah, and what I'll also do is I'll go through the comments in the chat and move anything that it's not in the Google Doc yet, so that, I mean, in the Harvest Doc we collect all the good ideas, all the ideas that can. So Zacko, over to you.
Yeah. To wrap us up, first of all, you know, one of the reasons why we decided on this activity was exactly to model what a community space is for, right? You know, we're literally in 20-25 minutes helping each other out, providing peer support on some relevance, you know, little topic issue that we're each facing. And there are other formats that they can go more in depth. So for example, you know, they can be an hour. It can be an hour focusing on one person's problem, challenge, etc. And then we dive into this. You know, there are different formats, but this is one we chose for, you know, for today to do that. In terms of wrap up, you know, we have a few suggestions for you. First is, I'll put it in the chat too, but you can also see it in the Google Doc at the end. We now have the roster, and we're very happy to keep linking it everywhere, because this is, you know, what we didn't have before is a roster and or rather an open roster, a roster that all of you can see and access. And you see that it's about 80 people now, or 82, I think. I invite you to go to columns N and O. Where N is areas of expertise and O is areas you could use help. And then the invitation there, and you can start now and, you know, finish later, is to find your name where you are on the roster, and then go to columns N and O and then fill them out. And by this I mean, under areas of expertise, you can write something like, I don't know, digital marketing, graphic design, I don't know, analytics, platforms, like whatever it is. Just in one word, kind of keywords, you know, like what you would put in a LinkedIn profile, right? And you can put 2 or 3, and then the areas you could use help or needs, you know, could be the same, but it's like, oh, you know, I need AI for my work. I know nothing about it. So like the need would be like AI tools, whatever, or I don't know, KM strategy, or facilitating events, like whatever it is. The purpose is for us to start filling out that part of the roster, which we deliberately didn't ask in the form itself. And then what that would enable us to do is actually to reach out to one another based on that. So for example, if I have a need that's, I don't know, digital marketing, and then I go through the roster and I see that, you know, Marcia, let's say, put, you know, digital marketing there, then I could, you know, reach out to Marcia and say, hey, like, we're members of the same community. I saw that you have expertise in this area. Would you be willing to chat for a little bit and kind of provide some whatever resources, leads you have, you know, and then you have behind the scenes connections going on and people helping each other out in a different way, without us, meaning the stewards, kind of having to facilitate that. So I invite you to write, you know, fill those out, and then periodically go back to this and see what others have written. We'll try to get more people, of course, to write theirs, you know, since right now the columns are blank. And then on that note, the other related invitation in terms of next steps is to you know, reach out to somebody else in the community for a longer conversation. You know, you just had like little conversations during the check-in with a couple other people, you know, which was great. You know, but you know, I think it will be great for everybody if you just, you know, randomly look through the 80 people or so around that, and then reach out to somebody to meet, hang out, build relationships, etc. You can use those two kind of keywords around needs and asks if you want, of course, but just more generally, invitation to connect to others. So that's one piece. Roster, you know, connecting with other people. The second next step would be attending upcoming events. I think you'll get an invite shortly for, what is it, Claudia? April, I keep forgetting. April 2nd, April 4th? What was the?
April 2nd.
April
Yeah.
2nd, okay.
Yeah, I should send it next week.
Yeah, so stay tuned. It's April 2nd. What time was it? Was it? I forget now.
Second. It's 10 a.m. my time, so 9 a.m. ET, Eastern time.
Okay, yeah, so roughly around the same time that we started, you know, today. And so there will be an event. There's a Lafia Community of Practice. It's a community in West Africa, I want to say, or well, the organization is based, I think, in Senegal, but they have presence in other places. And so it's really it's kind of like a show and tell, like a storytelling around their community model and what they're how they're doing it. And it's really interesting because it's a community of practice about kind of community-led development, or like how to build local community in different parts. So it's a bit like also like our umbrella community of community builders. Like in that case, is similar. They have a specific model that's been around for 30, 40 years, and so they're building capacity around it. And how do they build capacity? One part is developing a COP around it. Anyway, so that's coming up on April 2nd. You'll get the invite. I think it'll be really, really interesting. Like you know, Claudia and I, of course, have been in talks with them to find out more, and I'm looking forward to it because I want to learn more about how they're doing things. So there's that, and then one more coming up. I think April 24th on social connectivity, basically. So that's that, and then the final piece we mentioned about the stewardship circle, you know, before. We're still trying to figure out exactly how to launch or how to start the process. So maybe next week we'll have more details, and as soon as we do, we'll share with everybody. And again, the invitation is for whoever feels drawn, you know, to step into at least the possibility of joining the circle. You'll see how it will work. And even if you don't end up joining or don't want or don't have time or whatever, there will be still ways to engage with the circle itself, and do other things for the community in addition to attending. So stay tuned for that as well. And then finally, I know we're a couple minutes over time here. If you go back to the Google Doc, we have the reflections, the checkout reflections. It'll be great if you take a minute to write something in all three kind of categories. The SIP, what's your SIP that you're taking away with? So something simple, impactful, portable. So that's more of a kind of personal insights, and then pluses, like what you liked about the session itself, and then deltas, what would be even better for the future. So yeah, let's take a moment to fill that out. I'll give you a minute. All right, Paloma, yeah, okay. And I think now, if anybody wants to stick around for a couple more minutes, to chat or have additional questions or comments, you can do that. Those who need to leave, thank you for coming. It was great to see you all, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you very much for your time and dedication. It was really interesting. See you all. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
See you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was great.